Welcome to Living Chassidus. Together, let's live the Chassidus we learn.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Chassidus in the Morning, 15 minutes to change our lives. This shiur and the whole week's shiur have been sponsored anonymously in order for refuah shlema for Leah Basar. They should have a speedy recovery, and everything should be amazing. Thank you for the sponsorship that makes all these videos and these shiurim available. Okay, today we're going to do something different, a little bit on the fly. We're going to learn about Shabbas HaGadol from the Rebbe's perspective, coming from Rabbi Yoel. This is not a straight sikha, but this is coming from Rabbi Yoel. It's Rabbi Yoel. Whoever doesn't know, he organized the sikhs and the memorim that we have. So for sure, this is Kodesh. Okay, let's learn about Shabbos HaGadol. So the Shabbos before Pesach is called Shabbos HaGadol. So what's the reason for the name Shabbos HaGadol? The Alter Rebbe explains in the Shulchan Aruch that since Bnei Yisrael left Mitzrayim on Thursday, like this year Pesach, so the Shabbos beforehand was the 10th day of Nisan, the Shabbos, and the day when the Yidden designated sheep for Karban Pesach, which is when they set the sheep on this Shabbos. So our Kvios this year is the same as the Kvios that it was by Yetzias Mitzrayim. When the firstborn Egyptians asked the Jews what were they doing, so they explained that Hashem would be striking the firstborns in just a few days. So the Egyptians see the Yidden taking the sheep, which is the idols of Mitzrayim, and tie them to the bedpost. And okay, what are you doing with our idol over there? And they said, in a few days, Hashem is going to take us out of Mitzrayim and he's going to kill the firstborns. And he had commanded them to sacrifice a carbon. So what happened? So hearing this, they approached Paro, the firstborn of Mitzrayim, approached Paro and demanded that he free the Jews. Paro refused, and a civil war ensued between the firstborn and Paro's men. To commemorate this great miracle, the Shabbos before Pesach is called Shabbos HaGadol. And because of this miracle, that this whole war broke out, this is why it's called the Shabbos HaGadol, the great Shabbos. Now, this is the question. Despite the greatness of this event, it appears that the Jews didn't gain anything from this. The firstborn were unsuccessful in influencing Paro to let the Yidden leave any earlier. And all that had happened was that one Egyptian fought against the other Egyptian. So what was so special about this occurrence, to the extent that it's marked until today? Shabbos HaGadol, the great Shabbos, that what happened? The Egyptians fought amongst each other. Now, it is pretty miraculous that they fought against each other and they didn't start fighting the Yidden. But what is it? What does it make a difference to us? Nothing changed. Also, we didn't leave Mitzrayim early because of it. It's like a factual event. And what are we celebrating here? It's a Shabbos HaGadol, the great Shabbos. What's so great? That the Egyptians fought against the Egyptians. How is that great for us? Did it make a difference for us? It didn't seemingly do anything different. So what's going on over here? So the Tur cites, he's a halachic codifier, that another miracle cites another miracle as being the reason behind the name. So what we said was the Alter Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe said it was because of the fact that on Shabbos HaGadol, this great Shabbos, was when the firstborn Egyptians went to war against the Egyptians, a civil war. But the Torah says a different reason why it's called Shabbos HaGadol. Because he says when the Yidden tied the sheep to the bedpost, the Egyptians were furious at what they were planning to do to the deity, yet miraculously they were unable to harm them. So the Torah says the reason why it's called Shabbos HaGadol was the fact that it was so great that even though the Yidden were tying the deity of the Mitzrayim to the bedpost, the Mitzrayim were not happy about it, but they didn't do anything. That's a miracle. So this miracle indeed benefits the Jews as protecting them from harm. But the Alter Rebbe chooses instead to cite another miracle as the reason behind Shabbos HaGadol. What is significant in this event? So the shaila is, why does Alter Rebbe choose the civil war in Mitzrayim as the great miracle? Because it it's not such a great miracle. To say, like the Torah, that the miracle is the fact that even though the Yidden were tying the deity of Mitzrayim, nothing happened to them. Now that's a miracle. That makes a little more sense. So what's the Alter Rebbe? Why is Alter Rebbe choosing that reasoning? So let's see. Beyond Dir B'Tachteinim, the avodah of a Jew is divided into two aspects. You have his avodah influencing the world, one aspect, and his personal avodah that far surpasses his effects of his surroundings. There's what we do as affecting, and there's what we do as our own avodah. Yeah, his effects and his surroundings. One second. I think this is a little bit. Here. Page all mixed up a little bit. Let's see. Chassidus explains that the goal of our avodah is to transform this lowly world into a into a dwelling place for Hashem, a place where Hashem himself can dwell. However, despite the greatness of this accomplishment, the independent quality of a Jew and his avodah of Torah mitzvahs is far more precious. So there's our avodah as we are B'dir B'tachtonim. There's me and my avodah with my purpose is to make a dwelling place for Hashem. And that's how I am used for the ultimate purpose. But then there's a deeper level of avodah, which is my personal avodah of doing Torah mitzvahs, which we're saying here is more precious. These two aspects are reflected in the two distinct periods of time. The state of the Jewish people in Mitzrayim versus once they left Mitzrayim. In Mitzrayim, incorporated within Egyptian society, their primary focus was on elevating the world around them. Yetzias Mitzrayim, however, marked the birth of the Jewish nation as a separate entity, one whose worth is defined by their personal, unique existence, beyond what they accomplish on their surroundings. Indeed, the Navi Yechezkel compares Yetzias Mitzrayim to the birth of a child, and that event symbolizes the birth of our nation. So there's us in Mitzrayim, which our avodah is B'dir B'tachtonim, and then there's us leaving Mitzrayim, which is our personal avodah, and it's our own avodah for our souls, Torah mitzvahs, which is more precious. And that's what we're saying here. These two aspects of the avodah, there's a avodah B'dir B'tachtonim, then there's a avodah of our Torah mitzvahs, which is more precious, which is like being in Mitzrayim, which is the B'dir B'tachtonim, and being in a place, an environment, and you need to affect the surrounding. And then there's your own personal avodah of Torah mitzvahs. That's when we leave Mitzrayim. So which day epitomizes the avodah of Bnei Yisrael to influence Mitzrayim? Where's the B'dir B'tachtonim most brought out? Of course, Shabbas HaGadol. The Egyptians had received a command from Hashem to release the Jews. Hashem is telling the Mitzrayim, let the Yidden go. Until that point, they had adamantly refused to fulfill this directive. However, on Shabbos HaGadol, the Jews succeeded in influencing them to listen. Through selecting sheep for the Korban Pesach and discussing what Hashem would be doing in a few days' time, the first ones were motivated to demand that power fulfill Hashem's instructions to let the Jews leave. So the avodah of B'dir B'tachtonim was accomplished. The most was brought out specifically in Shabbos HaGadol. When the Yidden take the Korban Pesach, the Korban, and they're saying to the Egyptians, hey, we're leaving soon, and your guys are going to die, and this is what we're doing, that was a motivating B'dir B'tachtonim that the Mitzrayim said, hey, we got to do something about this. We got to change, we got to fix this. Through selecting sheep for the Korban Pesach and discussing what Hashem would be doing in a few days' time, the first ones were motivated to demand the power to fulfill Hashem's instruction, let the Yidden go. So they were affecting the world, that the world was saying, hey, you didn't have to leave. That's what it had accomplished by Shabbos HaGadol. And this is what the Alter was saying, that the miracle was that the firstborns. So we said in the miracles, the firstborns were playing to Paroi and having a fight. What we're saying is, the miracle was that we convinced that the firstborn should say to Paroi, it's time to let the Yidden go, which is the B'dir B'tachtonim. This is what made this miracle unique. The first ones didn't become new people. They remained wicked men. And what's more, they were Egyptian firstborns, symbolized by the pinnacle of the cliff of Mitzrayim. And yet, being who they were, and yet, being who they were, they demanded from Paroi that he fulfill Hashem's command. This represented a change in nature, not a change in physical nature, as in the case of the miracles, but rather something even more miraculous, a change in the nature of spirituality. Yeah, so what made the miracle of Mitzrayim so unique, that of Shabbos HaGadol, was the firstborn. They didn't become new people, even though they're coming and saying, hey, we have to let the Yidden go. They didn't become spiritual and all like, hey, we love the Yidden now, and let's be so nice to them and let them build a nation. They were still wicked, those same people. They still Mitzrayim and still Klippa, but Im Kol Zeh, nevertheless, they still demanded that the Yidden should be let go. And what it shows it's not a change. The change is not a change in the physical nature, because they didn't like most miracles. They didn't change. They were still the same bad people. But it's something more miraculous, a change in the nature of spirituality. Let's see. This idea, our avodah to elevate the world, is connected to Shabbos, the day of the week when this miracle is commemorated. The day of the week this miracle is commemorated. Shabbos HaGadol, like we said, was in the original Shabbos HaGadol was this Kvius. So the Shabbos is the day that brought completion to creation. As HaGadol tell us, the world was lacking the concept of rest, and Shabbos ushered in rest, thereby concluding the work of creation. The time of Mashiach is similarly called a period of that entirely Shabbos, because it will bring in perfection in world and humanity. So Shabbos is its rest, and then Mashiach is also the ultimate rest, which is the ultimate Dibur Tachteinim. So let's see, Yud Aleph Nisan in 2448. Yud Aleph Nisan on that year. Still, despite the greatness of this avodah, of Dibur Tachteinim that happened by Shabbos HaGadol, it fell short of encapsulating our true essence. This is not the true essence of a Yid. A Jew is essentially beyond the material world, and even beyond making it into a Dibur Tachteinim. We are not the sum total of our actions. Yes, our main job in this world is to make a Dibur Tachteinim, but that's not the essence of who we are. Of course, a person must occupy himself with his task, and through performing mitzvahs with physical objects, he elevates them to Kedusha. However, this is not what mitzvah is truly about. Torah and mitzvahs are about connecting to Hashem, and we are intrinsically far more precious to Hashem than transforming the world into Tachteinim. Meaning, we think to ourselves, my value is when I do a mitzvah. Hashem wants me to do mitzvahs. If I don't do mitzvahs, Hashem doesn't want me. But Hashem wants to do mitzvahs because I'm special, not to make me special. I am intrinsically special. The mitzvah itself is intrinsically special. And Hashem wants us to do the mitzvahs because we're special. And that's what we're saying. We're not as good as we make a Dibur Tachteinim. Why am I good? Because I made a Dibur Tachteinim. You're better than me because you made a better Dibur Tachteinim. And I made a worse Dibur Tachteinim, so I'm worse. Dibur Tachteinim is a side point. Essentially who I am, I'm a Yid and I'm a Chelkel Kamimar, and I'm connected to Hashem, and Hashem loves me. Because not he loves me because of my action, not because who I am. We are family. But being that we're family, we want me to do these things. So who am I intrinsically? Who am I? I'm not a person that does mitzvahs. I'm a Yid. And being that I'm a Yid, I do mitzvahs. So of course, a person wants himself, However, that is not what a mitzvah is truly about. Torah and mitzvahs are about connecting to Hashem, and we are intrinsically far more precious to Hashem than transforming the world into Dibur Tachteinim. Which day emphasizes the second higher aspect? Which day emphasizes the mile of a Yid? What day is that? Yud Aleph Nisan. Because Yud Nisan shows the mile of a Yid making a Dibur Leisbarach, making a dwelling place for Hashem, because we managed to make the Mitzrim realize they have to let the Yidden go. That's making the world into a dwelling place for Hashem. But like we said, the deeper aspect is not how we make a Dibur Leisbarach, we make a dwelling place for Hashem in the world, but it's that we're far more greater than this. So although the birth of the Jewish nation took place primarily when they left Mitzrayim on the 15th of Nisan, it began earlier. It's just Mitzrayim, which is the ultimate, we said, that happened on the 15th, of course. But when does it begin? With the preparations for the Korban Pesach. The Pesach means to jump, symbolizing a leap beyond worldly limitations. The carbon that carries this name and preparation for it, that signifies the birth of a Jew. Korban Pesach, the Pesach is the dilug, is the jumping, that representing the Yid. And that his value lies beyond his influence in the world around him. Through the Korban Pesach, the Korban Pesach was selected on the 10th of Nisan, like we said, but on that day, the Jews were associated with Mitzrayim. On the pasuk, draw and take for yourselves sheep. Chazal explained, draw forth your hands from Avodah Zarah and take for yourselves sheep for the mitzvah. The Chazal is explaining that when the part is saying draw forth and take the sheep, is take yourself away from Avodah Zarah and start doing mitzvahs. On the 10th of Nisan, the Jews were divesting themselves from Avodah Zarah Mitzrayim. The first day devoted entirely to preparation come Pesach. The first day, Yud Nisan, what were we doing? We were getting rid of Avodah Zarah and starting to do mitzvahs. But on Yud Aleph Nisan, we're actually just totally involved with doing mitzvahs. Highlighting the Jews themselves as they are independently unique was on the following day, Yud Aleph Nisan. That's Yud Aleph Nisan. To finish it off, these two aspects are further associated with the numbers 10, Yud Nisan, and Yud Aleph Nisan. Yud Nisan, with the miracles that happen with Yud Nisan, Yud Aleph Nisan. The number 10 is a worldly number. 10 divine spheres are the source of creation. And we therefore find many areas in which worldly concepts are comprised of 10 components. For example, every created being consists of 3 dimensions, width, length, and height. Each one in turn consists of a beginning, middle, and end. When added to the entirety itself, the total is 10 reached. Yeah, makes sense. I don't want to go into a nap because we're running out of time. Let's finish it up. 11, by contrast, is the number after 10, a signifying level that surpasses creation. As we say in Pasuk Eliyahu, you are Hashem one, Ata Echad, Shimcha Echad, and you are beyond the sum of 10 spheres. Yeah. Although we are currently after Yitzias Mitzrayim, every year we re-experience the events that occurred then. Shabbos HaGadol emphasizes the importance of elevating the world around us, including non-Jews, by influencing them to fulfill the Sheva Mitzvahs Bnei Noach. But Yud Aleph Nisan, however, reminds us that a Jew is inherently much greater than that. Yud Aleph Nisan is the true birthday of the Jewish nation, teaching us who we truly are, a nation infinitely higher than the world, who connects and unites to Hashem to Torah mitzvahs. So Yud Aleph Nisan is really the expression of a Yid's essential greatness above its Torah mitzvahs. Of course, we express it through Torah mitzvahs, but it expresses the specialness of Yid. Yud Nisan expresses us as we are an influencer. But Yud Aleph Nisan is as we truly are for ourselves. So everyone in Mitzvah Hashem should have an amazing Shabbos, HaGadol, and we should appreciate the essential us and appreciate what our job is, and on a deeper level, who we really are, and how that expressed itself in Yud Aleph Nisan. Have a great Shabbos.